So a little while ago on my communities tab, I asked if anyone had any topics or suggestions that I should talk about on my videos, and one of the suggestions was actually tracing. And that was kind of perfect because I've always wanted to talk about the idea of tracing or the act of tracing in art, and how it should be used. Now, if you take a look on YouTube or TikTok or Google or whatever search engine you do use, Opera GX, who cares, you'll quickly find that there is a very negative stigma on tracing, and it is deserved 100%. Usually, when people talk about tracing, it is when someone traces over their art and takes credit for it, usually for profit in merch or in certain projects, and sometimes, and sadly, even by big companies. Big companies are not will do not like stick away from this. They easily take stuff from the community and then put it in their own projects just for profit without giving any credit to the original illustrator, and that definitely sucks. And it's even worse how like videos like H-Bomber, even though that the plagiarism video made by H-Bomber was specifically on YouTube videos and scripts, it still goes to show that plagiarism can, a lot of people who plagiarize can get away with it really easily, especially if you're not vigilant enough, and you're not always on the lookout for it, and that does suck. But I want to make it very clear that just because that stuff can happen does not mean we should apply it to every single person that traces. Every single person that does it is not a person with the intent to discredit someone or take their artwork for their own. Sometimes it is just a useful tool to use, and that's how I look at tracing. Tracing is an extremely helpful tool to get the understanding of shapes or styles or illustrations, or even people that you really love and you really like their drawings and you want to get closer to their style. Tracing is a perfect way to start, and I feel like this is a really good example. When you're doing an art study, you usually use your observation skills, your copying skills, your techniques, and you usually watch someone draw and you copy one for one how they color, how they do that, and you slowly understand how a person thinks and how they achieve their style. So you're practically just mimicking someone else's style as closely as possible, and that's okay, because you're still trying to do it yourself, but you're still essentially mimicking someone else's style. You're still copying them at a level. So why is that loved and called an art study, but something as tracing is hated and called morally wrong and awful to do? It is simply another tool. Some people don't have the skill or the talent to start off right away mimicking someone else, so sometimes they have to start a little farther back and a little closer to their own work. Tracing is a perfect way to do that, to fully understand form or shapes or colors or lineament or something like that. In fact, here are a couple sheets of me where when I didn't understand the anatomy of an arm or how certain muscles laid on it or where the fat would go, and especially where gravity would pull, I would find a picture specifically of in an arm position that I'm not comfortable with, trace over it, and then once I'm done tracing, I would go to the side and then redraw the whole thing using what I've learned from tracing, even putting in notes. And that's how I study anatomy. That's how I study certain parts. I did it for legs, I did it for arms, and I do it for faces sometimes too. When I find an anime illustration or style that I really do love and I want to get closer to, sometimes I just find a manga panel, find a face where they're either front or a 3/4 view, and just trace it just to see how they achieved it. Where? Because you know how like a good example is that when you're drawing a lot of anime females, a lot of artists do like a little cheek bump whenever they're doing the third person perspective or like the 3/4 perspective. And some people put it really high, some people put it really low, and sometimes tracing you can get a good feel for their style. I'm just saying is that when you're tracing, it is a very, very good tool in order to get closer to someone else's style, especially if that is what you're trying to achieve or just learn. You're just learning. If it's used in the facet of learning, it should be okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that all tracing in this is good, and especially you are doing a very bad, even if it's on accident, you still need to be giving proper credit, a link, a picture, and you have to be very transparent saying that you trace this piece of art. I do not condone tracing if you are not going to do all four of these things. I would like, if you ever do make a video on YouTube or even post it on Instagram, I would like a very clear message saying that you trace this artwork. I would like a link to the original source. I would like a credit to the person's name, and I would love a picture standing right next to your art piece saying that this is the place I traced from, because you have to be very clear. It is still a very scary thing, and yes, even if you're doing it accidentally, you still could be discrediting and ruining the hard work of another artist that worked very long on their piece. And just because you made a simple mistake, they're suddenly not getting the respect that they deserve for their own art piece. So remember, even if I do think tracing is a very good tool, even if I think you want to trace just so your art looks a little bit better, that's fine. As long as you're giving credit, it is fine. It is just another way to learn. And I feel like it is unfair if we call mimicking a style study and we don't call tracing another form of study. I think that's completely unfair, and I think that's really weird. So that's my opinion on it, and I hope you feel the same. I guess I don't really hope you feel the same. I hope you kind of just have some opinion of it, and I hope we can come to an agreement, because this topic is a very long and convoluted and complicated subject that has many ins and outs. You know, some people think that tracing over an artwork and changing certain things suddenly make it an original piece. Some people think that if you change enough, then suddenly it's yours to keep. Even though I don't agree, I still think if you trace in any sort of way, you should give credit, or at least acknowledge that there was another piece that you took heavily high inspiration from, because I think that's just fair. I think that if they inspired you, or if you take any facet of their art and it helps you make your drawing, you should give credit to the person. But yeah, there's just a lot of caveats. So if you guys have any comments of the sort, please leave it down below, because I literally look at all my videos. I always answer the comments. I think it's very fun to have a discussion, and even if you want to, I'll make a YouTube discussion post and we can just have a chat there. So thank you guys very much for watching this far. I very much appreciate all of you guys. You guys are amazing, and remember, please give credit to everything you do. This is just a good message to overall end on, that anyone, even if you notice someone who's tracing and not giving credit, make sure you tell them, because it is just worth it. So thank you guys again for taking this long. Here are the 3 comments. Thank you guys for being so supportive, and I hope to see you guys very soon. Take good care. Bye bye.